Okay, let's start with that. Are women to blame for hookup culture? What do the gals think?
I think it is fully, or not fully. Do you want me to elaborate?
Go ahead. Fire away.
All right. So I think men have been the same for as long as we can remember. I think the fact that women have become more loose with hooking up on the first date, hooking up on the second date, I think that's women decide when sex happens. And I think sex got easy, so love got hard. And I think that's women driven completely nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Sex got easy, love got hard. Okay.
Yeah.
I can jump in and piggyback on that. Actually, I do agree. I think that women hold that key. I think that, you know, as I've gotten older, you know, in my 20s, I might have had a different answer for that. And now in my 30s, I'm realizing like, yeah, you know, we have to value and love ourselves a little bit more and hold ourselves to that higher standard. So I do agree with that.
What about Jill? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I do agree. And I've never, even through my 20s, never been the type to do that, like sleep around or anything. But I have friends who are like that. But I also feel like nowadays it's like if you don't, men are so used to that you kind of almost feel like pressured to be that type of girl, even like on Instagram, on everything. You're like, if you don't fall into that category, you're just gonna like miss your opportunity because men are just so used to what the next best thing is.
Okay.
Don't you feel like men will treat you how you allow them to treat you? You know what I mean?
Yes, no, for sure. But I just feel like now that men are so conditioned to this way that it's hard. It's harder. It's harder to go out there being like a good girl, like a good girl, and like just more. I don't know the right word I'm looking for. I just feel like it's harder for good women to get out there.
More traditional, you say.
More traditional, exactly.
I think what Jillian, you're saying too is men like reward promiscuity based on, you know, their school program all day, every day, looking at ass cheeks.
Yeah, and I do think because of us, but it's just been this way for a while now that's what they're used to. So then you go out try to be traditional, you don't even get like attention at all.
Tiffany, tell me that you disagree. It's men's fault.
I mean, I feel like it's 50-50. Like hookup culture is normalized these days. Women are definitely giving in more than they used to. And it's just like a normal thing, it seems like.
So at what point did y'all come to the realization that it's women that control access to intimacy?
I think women
what age, let's say, at what age did you have this revelation? We'll start with you, Beth.
I think kind of like Christy said, I think as you get older, you realize kind of the dynamics of dating. I would say early 30s. I'm in my late 30s now, unfortunately, but yeah, I would say early 30s, you kind of realize that you kind of I don't want to say we decide when that happens, but I don't know, I think it leans majority wise on females when that does happen in a relationship, when you're dating or however casual or serious it is. I think in my early 30s, I realized, I determine how comfortable I am with everything. So I would say early 30s.
Yeah. And the rest of the gals, we got 24, 33. I think, Beth, you're the older one in the group. What about the rest of you?
I'm actually not too far from Beth. I'm 36. So I would say also in my early 30s. And I will say that too, it's difficult sometimes when you feel a mutual attraction. So there is that aspect of it too, that, you know, we don't want to like, you know, gloss over that piece of it, because there is sometimes a very mutual connection and you feel like that might be the next, you know, logical step, or it might be a good time to do that. But then when you sit back in your 20s and you realize like, okay, I made some mistakes here and I can learn from these. And then these relationships were not fruitful, or it did not end up in marriage, which would be the ultimate goal in my opinion anyway. Then that's what I would consider, you know, like a mistake on my part. So
yeah, we have this conversation a lot, me and Moff, when it comes to this realization, because there's a contingent of women that will hear the conversations that we talk about and they're like, I hate you guys, you're misogynists, who hurt you, you must have a little pee, you know, stuff like that. And then there's the other part where it's like, what they're saying actually starts to make sense if you really listen to it and you start connecting the dots. It's like, oh, okay. So there's this notion that if a lock can be opened by any key, it's a shitty lock. And there's a notion that if a master key can open up any lock, it's a good key. With, you know, you got the masculine and the feminine in the key and the lock there. So the gals hold, sorry, women are the ones that determine when intimacy happens at the end of the day. Like, you're the gatekeepers of sex, right? Men are the gatekeepers of the relationships. Men decide when it's going to turn from informal to a formal commitment, right? That's generally the way that it goes. There's some lines that kind of get blurred with that, where, like, you know, we've seen women sometimes on the show and they'll just sort of be like, well, you know, I really like this guy a lot and I'm waiting for him to ask me to be, you know, the girlfriend sort of thing. And I tell them all the same thing. It's like, why don't you lean in and say, hey, where do we stand? Right. It's like, well, I don't know. So there's a lot of confusion around that. It's interesting that we start the show with only Tiffany kind of on the 50-50 side. So 50-50. So what fault is it of men for hookup culture?
I mean, whenever I feel like, let's see, if I were to go out to a bar, I feel like all the men there are just kind of after like one thing. They want to find the pretty girl. They want to bring her home. They don't want anything serious because they want to do it all again next week. So I don't know. I feel like if girls are there too, it's kind of like the same. It's just kind of like I'm on a teeter-totter.
I mean, girls don't have to indulge though, right?
That's true. Girls don't have to. With the help of like alcohol, it makes it easier for the guys.
Definitely.
But then again, at the end of the day, it's always the girl's decision.
Yeah, and there's a lot of monkey see, monkey do too, right? 'Cause if there's a lot of other people doing it, it's like, oh, I should go along with it because I'm going to feel like an outcast if I don't participate, right? Yeah, there's always the argument from usually like the tradcon side of the equation, you know, the traditional conservatives, where they're like, well, men need to bear, you know, some of the responsibility here. And it's like, that's fine if all women were pure and they were going out doing, you know, nasty things, which they're not. I think on a balance of probabilities, most people would agree that most women, especially younger women in their 20s, are relatively promiscuous and free and open and sexual. And this all happened since the advent of hormonal birth control, by the way, too, right? Because now you could have free open sex and not get pregnant. So this is not recent. It's not only happened last, you know, in your eras, it's happened in our parents' eras too. You know, it kind of started from there. I don't know when it was. It was like the late 60s or something like that. You know, they came out with the hormonal birth control pill, and now there's all these other formats. So it's like you can have as much sex as you want and not deal with the pregnancy that comes with it. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here, and pin down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.